Good evening, good to have you with us on the weekend edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, we're going to put the spotlight on one case that exploded earlier this week with the arrest of businessman Raj Kundra, who's the husband of Shilpa Shetty. Now, Raj Kundra was arrested, as you know, for allegedly making porn films and selling them online. In fact, more and more details have emerged over the last several days on what it is that he, along with many others who've been arrested, were doing. Now, let me just take you through some of the details that the police claims they have found so far. They claim there have been huge transactions that have been traced in Raj Kundra's account, which are linked to the dealings regarding these films which were being shot to be sold. The money from the racket was being invested into online betting as well. 51 porn videos, they claim, have been recovered from the laptops, apps removed from multiple platforms because of obscenity. This has happened. The apps like Hotshots, where this content was actually being uploaded and was available for free, we understand, have now been pulled down by the App Store across the board. The police also says Raj Kundra launched another app once an original FIR was filed some time back. Data has been deleted since he's been arrested, but they've also found some WhatsApp chats, they claim, which indicate about an international level deal that was taking place, allegedly a deal of about $1.2 million for several films that would have been made and then sold. In fact, he was planning to sell 121 videos for this amount. Now, the argument that's playing out in the courts, and we will wait, in the coming days to see what more details of investigation emerge, what is the evidence that comes out. But the argument that's played out in the court really has been from Raj Kundra's end that these were not porn films. These were erotica films which were being made, and that's the differentiation that they are trying to really create, to say that unless and until there is full-fledged sex that is actually shown in a video, it cannot be categorized as porn, which is effectively illegal in our country. But that's not the only charge he faces. He also faces charges of cheating. The police's allegation is that women were lured into shooting these films. They were promised web series, and then they were made to shoot these, as the police says, very bold scenes which were semi-nude and also full nude. So the debate really of what kind of content it was continues. In fact, Raj Kundra's defense in court has been that this is the content which is very similar to many of what the OTT platforms are already giving. There are a lot of OTT platforms, the kind of sexually explicit content that they have, nobody questions them. Then how is it that this is actually being categorized as porn? That's a separate debate, and that will go on basis what it is that was put in these videos. But I thought this is another opportunity for us to talk about this trend, to talk about the fact that even now there are people, perhaps those hoping to make it big in the film or the television industry, who are forced to get into this kind of work, into erotica films or dirty films or even full-fledged porn films. That they are lured with promises of something better someday, that they are forced into this kind of work. And if that has actually now gotten exaggerated because of the pandemic times. In the last 1.5 years, not much work has happened even in the film industry or the television industry, across the entertainment industry, in fact, like it is for any other sector. And as that work becomes difficult to come by, people are struggling financially, economically, and that perhaps is also forcing many of them to choose whatever work comes by, and that becomes a big concern as well. So let's have a conversation of what's going on in the industry and if there is a larger concern. And I say good evening to Bharti Dubey, entertainment journalist, Murtaza Ali Khan, film critic, and AKashdeep Sabir, filmmaker, who's joining us right now. Bharti, let me start off with you. Perhaps this won't be the first such racket that has been busted. Maybe, an extremely high-profile name that's come through, and which is why it's making the headlines. But what do you make of the details that have emerged so far of the kind of setup it was of targeting these people, luring them in allegedly, making them shoot this content which could then be sold across the world?
see, content has been created. The woman who actually signed these films should have known these are erotica content. They should have signed it, reading the contract. They should have signed it saying that this is what is going to be. Now, none of them have gone blindly into that particular contract. And whatever Raj's lawyer has told me, that these are erotica content. And erotica content has been made in the past. It is not something that is new. But porn word is still debatable in this particular case for me. Can you hear me, Tanvi?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
That is the point I'm trying to make. I spoke to a couple of ladies also, and there are a lot of these girls who are also wanting to have gone into this profession knowingly. It's not that they don't know what they're getting into. And I have spoken to some women who are from outside sector. They don't belong to our industry, but they have gone into this particular profession. Of course, desperate times, people want to earn money. And there are girls who work in different sectors. I don't want to name those sectors because I'll get into trouble. They have joined this industry to earn that little money that they get from these particular movies that are being made. And erotic content, if AKashdeep will tell you, erotic content has been there, and there have been adult stars in our industry, especially in the South. So I don't know, this terming this particular thing as porn is not very convincing to me. I can call it erotica content that they're making, that Raj Kundra's company was making.
Okay. Let me actually just bring in Murtaza at this point as well. Murtaza, do you agree with what Bharti is saying here?
See, Tanvi, the way I look at it, it's a very, very complex situation. Let's try and understand that every month, thousands of youngsters come to Mumbai, in search of jobs, in search of opportunities. They do some odd jobs. They even get these smaller assignments in film and television. But right now, all that has dried up. Now, the options that they have is that they can even go back to their native places. Some of them, because I, as a journalist, keep a track of the youngsters, the upcoming talent. So a lot of them, have got into some work or the other. Some are driving cabs back in their hometowns. Some are selling vegetables. Some are in their family business. But still, a huge chunk is left, which is still stranded in Mumbai. They are not able to pay their rents. They are not able to pay their bills. So under the circumstances, there are sharks out there, these big sharks who are able to woo these talented people, individuals, luring them, giving them all kinds of false promises that, yes, we will give you this big break. And when they come on the stage, that's when the real picture shows up. That's when they are asked to, take off their clothes, expose themselves and do certain things which they were never aware of. So that's where the duplicitous things are happening. Now, there will always be a debate whether it's erotica or it's porn, because as the saying goes, one man's poisons is another man's, cognac, or it can be another man's meat. So similarly, the way I see porn could be another person's erotica and vice versa. So that's for the police to figure it out, whether it was erotica, whether it was porn. But the fact of the matter is that 20 odd, I think 30 odd people have come out and they have said that they were forcefully they were made to do this, in terms of they were coaxed, they were forced to do this. And that is where the problem lies. That is very, very criminal in nature. More than the fact that it is erotica or porn, the fact is that it's being done against the consent of these individuals.
Yes, in fact, so that's exactly what I also wanted to highlight, that irrespective of what they finally decide on the kind of content and which category it really comes into, broadly we know what it is. And the fact is that many of the people were allegedly forced into this kind of content. They would have been lured with false promises, with the promise of something better. I think AKashdeep, it was also, claimed by the police that they were made to sign certain non-disclosure contracts as well. So we know this has existed. We know this has existed for years and decades, perhaps, this kind of a, underbelly of the entertainment industry. How do you go about cleaning it up? Is there a, way of making the industry maybe more organized, more transparent in the way the contracts are done, what is said, the way the casting is done? How do we clean it up?
Tanvi, there is nothing called porn industry. Therefore, I don't know how valid your question is. What do you clean up when there is no industry? These are clandestine.
No, I'm talking about the larger entertainment industry and how many of them, this case being an example, get trapped into this kind of doing this kind of content on the promise of something else, or they're forced into this kind of content because they are not getting anything else.
No, Tanvi, I don't agree with you. First and foremost, Bollywood has no connection with this industry. There is no parallel industry called porn industry in India. There does exist a porn industry abroad, but it is never connected to Hollywood. It's separate. It's legitimate there, so I can understand. Here it's a crime, so no defending what has happened. But I would also not like to give a clean chit to the actors with all my heartfelt concerns for those who've come up. But please do not kid yourself and do not kid the world by saying you were forced to do it. It was not rape. You should know when you're doing a television show, a film show, a web show, or a pornographic content film. You're not dumb. You're not underage. You're matured enough to read before you sign a contract. You go and face the camera. Multiple artists are engaged in sexual explicit activities, whether, like you said, it's all the way or not. Therefore, it could only be erotic and it could probably not be porn. That's a total different dimension. But I'm not ready to accept that those people didn't know what was happening. Poor little things. They just went and did it and later on realized, Arey, our clothes were removed. We didn't know. Come on. This is not the way. This is not what happened. The maker is responsible. His is a criminal activity. So is every member of the unit, including the actors. No way we can defend this, especially because porn may be an accepted alternate viewing site abroad. But in India, I also agree with the government. We're not ready as yet, and therefore it is still a crime here. So it's not just the maker who should be held as a criminal, but every participant, whether it is cast and crew. And as regards cast coming out and saying, we were forced, we were coerced, we didn't have any other work during COVID. What do you mean? Are you all the only girls who didn't have work during COVID? 90% of the country didn't have. You mean to say they all should justify being in erotica content because there was COVID and there was no other work? And lastly, how do you relate this to Bollywood? This is somebody's own idea of creating this content, selling it to a portal outside, making money. This is an individual transgression of the law and should be dealt with individually.
Okay.
In fact,
let me just clarify that, AKashdeep. At no point am I saying it. I don't know if you've read it or heard it elsewhere that this is about Bollywood. I think I've been very clear from the beginning. Film and television industry, the entertainment industry, it doesn't even have to be Mumbai-centric or Bollywood at all. It could be in any other part of our country. I'm talking largely about entertainment industry, which would include OTT platforms, web series, television, all of that. That is not the point. This is not a show where we are sitting and actually bashing Bollywood. I just want to make that clear. But I take the other point that you've made. And let me take that now to Murtaza because he seemed to have a different view, and then to Bharti. Murtaza, to you first, because AKashdeep Sabir says, well, everybody gets into this knowingly. They can't now stand up, turn around and say, oh, we were forced to do this.
Tanvi, first and foremost, let's agree that we cannot turn a blind eye that an underbelly exists. A dark underbelly exists within the confines of the industry. I don't want to get into the specifics because that is for the investigation agencies to do that. But there has always been this dark underbelly, and we cannot turn a blind eye, and especially now when it is becoming more and more organized. We are talking about millions here. And especially at a time when there is no mainstream as such existing, this is becoming, the fringe is slowly becoming more and more mainstream. It's getting more and more organized. So let's agree to that. We cannot, continue to overlook the fact that, yes, it has always been there, but in the pandemic times, it has grown substantially. The numbers have grown up and it's getting more and more organized. And the web, especially these OTT platforms, they have made it far easier for the circulation of this kind of content. So let's agree on that. There's no denying that. We have ample evidence. We have seen what happened with these apps. So there is the content out there and it's growing, and we are now talking in serious numbers. It's no longer a very small sort of a, fringe set up. It's pretty much organized. There is nothing that can deny that.
Yes. Okay. Bharti, where do you stand on these two views that have been put across?
What AKashdeep says is Bollywood per se is not directly involved. But there is definitely what Murtuza said. There is an underbelly. There are content being made. There are people involved in this particular industry. Money is being made. Actresses are doing this kind of shooting for this kind of content. People are taking advantage of girls also. But there are the girls. What Murtuza said. Yes, numbers are growing. Porn industry has grown. In fact, consumption in our country of porn has gone up like huge. Consumption is happening. That is why the reason is the production has also gone up probably. And I know for a fact that a lot of these small studios in the outskirts of Bombay are creating this kind of content, which there is no denying of the fact. But we can't label Bollywood ki na Bollywood ko clean up ki zarurat hai. That I don't agree with.
Correct. No, correct. No, so let's try and then recalibrate what we're saying here. Yes, it happens. Yes, perhaps it's happening at a larger scale now. No, it isn't just about restricted to Bollywood. We're talking about a larger, movie making segment here. Whether you categorize it as erotica or porn or whatever else. The point here is whether that's now become bigger. Because of the pandemic, are there more of such videos now being made, and the technology is obviously aiding the fact that it's so easy to put it out there, it's so easy to make money out of it. So it's illegal in our country. That's one aspect. Can we blame any specific segment, or are all of them equally to be blamed for knowingly getting into this and wanting to make a big buck? That's the question, Bharti.
How do we dissociate with ourselves? I would like to ask Akash, how does Bollywood dissociate itself from this particular industry? If we want to, stay away.
Connection between Bollywood and this industry. Where is the connection? Just because a camera is used and the people participating in the content are called actors, that's the only connection you can have to Bollywood. This is an underbelly, dark business that existed long from decades. There is thousands and thousands of hours of content available of people from all castes and creed. I am talking about Indians. Plus, there is billions of footage of time of footage available of international pornography stuff. This has been happening from probably, I can't say time immemorial, but so many years that is a separate industry, an industry that is certainly banned in India and has no connection with Bollywood. When Murtuza said, I would like to say, let's not, it's so big and it's becoming bigger and let's not hide from that fact. Which fact? How are you connecting this industry to Bollywood? Okay, let's accept what Murtuza is saying. It's become so big that
because he's saying there are a lot.
But you will surely agree to the fact that
no, he's indicating that there are connections even to this industry. Yeah.
No, but Murtuza, where is the connection?
Where is the connection to Bollywood, Murtuza?
No, nobody is connecting it to Bollywood, but can you deny the fact that Raj Kundra is married to Shilpa Shetty? Shilpa Shetty recently resigned from the company which is named after his son. Can it be denied?
Are you telling me?
Is Shilpa Shetty not associated with Bollywood? Is she not has she not been a leading Bollywood actress?
1 minute,
I am not incriminating Bollywood, but is there no connection at all?
Murtuza, very unfair on your part to try and make this sensational.
Have I ever incriminated Bollywood? I am the first one to support Bollywood. I have written editorials supporting Bollywood. But you cannot, sir, overlook the fact that Shilpa Shetty was a member in this organization. She only recently came out with this film called Hangama 2. Is Hangama 2 not a Bollywood film? Is Hangama 2 not a Bollywood film? Has Shilpa Shetty not been a member of this company that Mr. Raj Kundra is using to put out this content to the world?
Murtuza, what kind of a debate is this that you ask me a question and you only answer it? Hear my answer to what you have asked. You are asking questions and then giving your own answers. Well, accept your point of view, but listen to mine. Shilpa Shetty, if you're going to say that she's an actress, of course she's an actress. So, is there an iota of even a question mark on her involvement in this? Is there? Has the police said it?
If you say no, one second. If you say the police has called her for questioning, anybody who's tomorrow, if I am caught, my family, my children, my wife, my employees, my office, people around me, everybody will be questioned. But does that make all of them accomplices? Shilpa Shetty gives you headline, gives you
But it is the responsibility of who's in who of the Bollywood to condemn it, if that's not the case.
So,
I haven't seen anybody condemn it vociferously. It should be condemned. Why is Bollywood not condemning it?
I think, allow me just to come in here. I think the problem stems from the fact, and which is why we got derailed from the main conversation that we should have actually focused on, is that AKashdeep, this is not an attack on Bollywood, neither does Bollywood as an entity need to defend it at all. But if there is a connection which is, which exists between people who want to come and get acting roles or make it big in any kind of an acting setup, it's television or OTT or films, Hindi or English or Tamil or Telugu, and while they struggle there, get lured in by various production houses, small little production houses, casting, directors, agents, to meanwhile get into this, and they are promised. They made false promises, and they are told that, this will be part of some other web series. This is just one scene or two scene. I don't know. The police has to investigate and tell us what the proper, modus operandi was. But the initial details seem to suggest that they were lured in, saying that, okay, this is just one bold scene that you need to shoot, and it's going to take you forward and get you your next OTT web series or whatever. If there is that level of cheating involved, if it is that level of, trapping people and then outraging a woman's modesty involved, then that's a problem. If people are knowingly getting into it, they're knowingly becoming part of a crime, they all need to be punished for it. And that's a separate argument altogether, which may also be the case. But let's not please get caught into blaming Bollywood or not blaming Bollywood, or whether Bollywood should condemn it or shouldn't condemn it. I don't think it has anything to do with that. As long as anybody who's made it big doesn't turn a blind eye to what is happening around them. They shouldn't. If they find out, even if it is Shilpa Shetty, if she finds out what's going on and the way this content is being produced is wrong, then she needs to step up and say so as well. Right now her defense is, this is erotica content, it isn't porn. Let's see how that plays out in the court, if the courts are able to actually, if courts get convinced with that argument. I'm going to thank everybody for joining me on this conversation. The idea is to talk about the larger setup and whether that industry of erotica and porn is growing. Porn is illegal in our country, and if that industry is growing, then we need a larger crackdown on that. Who are these people who are generating this content, and is there a misuse and abuse of the talent which is coming in with some other kind of dream and are getting trapped into this? That's the cleanup that we should really actually be talking about. Thank you for joining us.